the Gemara in Baba Basra and go back to, okay. Tosos Haisa lo para muchkaras, Haisa lo para muchkaras muskaras. So I want to try to briefly discuss this Tosos a little bit more, and then to move on to Mukdashim, if we have time, then perhaps to discuss the Gemara on Amar Aleph with respect to Yarshu Shtar Chov. Okay. So says Tosos, well, before this says Tosos, let's keep in mind, we have a machlokas between Rebbe and Chacham. With respect to, we know that the Torah says the Bechor gets Pishnayim. So, however, the Bechor's Pishnayim is only from a Sheva that the Bechor's Pishnayim says Rabbanan, is from the Guf itself, but not from the Shevach. Shevach, which was accrued after the death of the father, the Bechor will not get Pishnayim according to Chacham. There are some exceptions, so that's the basic rule. Rabbi says the Bechor will get Pishnayim from that Shevach. We pointed out that certain Rabbanan agree that once they split up the property that the father left them, then certainly any subsequent Shevach, the Bechor will be entitled to. Machlokes Rebbe and Chachamim is before the split up is done. We also learned on Kuf Chav Vav that even if they didn't actually split up, the second the Bechor made a request to get his Pishnayim, and his subsequent accrued Shevach, the Bechor is entitled to, even according to Shitas Chachamim. So Machlokes is concerning Shevach that was accrued in between the death of the father and the splitting up or the request for splitting up, the request for Pishnayim. Okay. Adkan, the introduction to the Tosos. Now, Tosos raised the following question. Our Gemara tells us Machlokas Rebbe and Chachamim concerning the rent money accrued between the death of the father and when the Bechor requests the Pishnayim. Rabbi says the Bechor does get Pishnayim, that Rabbanan said that not. I'm sorry, I'm just going to shut a door over here. I apologize. However, as Tosos from the Gemara Daf Yud Gimel, and Daf Yud Gimel, it indicates that if father dies, leaving an Eben Be'emet Meah, Bechor gets Pishnayim of the work, and the Poshet one chelik. And thus, if there's two sons, then the Eben works for the Bechor 2 out of 3 days, 2/3 of the time, and for the Poshet 1/3 of the time. Okay. So what's the problem? Well, Tosos says that Gemara seems to contradict ours, because presumably we pass them like Chachamim. We pass them like Chachamim rather than a Rebbe. I mean that's the case. So we would expect that according to Chachamim, we should say that the Bechor shouldn't get Pishnayim of the work. Why should he not get Pishnayim of the work? Because after all, the work done after the death of the father is Shevach. The work done after the work of the father didn't exist during the father's lifetime. So true, the Bechor gets Pishnayim, the Eved, but that's only the Eved himself. The work done by the Eved after the death of the father, that Tosos understands is Shevach, and thus the Bechor should not get Pishnayim of that Shevach. So what does the Gemara over there say? Over L'zeh Yomim, L'zeh Yom Echad. That's Tosos' question, which he answered by saying, true, the Bechor doesn't get Pishnayim of the Shevach that takes place after the death of the father, but hey, there's an exception. Once the Bechor requests his Pishnayim, then his subsequent Shevach he is entitled to. And there, if the Eved says, when the father dies, that hey, I want this. If the Bechor says when the father dies, that I want this Eved to work more for me, that is considered to be filing for his Pishnayim. And thus, subsequent work, subsequent Shevach, the Eved is entitled to. And that's why he does get the Pishnayim. So Tos doesn't back out from his assumption that the work done after the death of the father is tantamount to, is similar to the rent money. Just what he says is that over there, in light of the Bechor saying, when the father dies, I want this Eved to work more for me. That is filing for the Shevach, and at that point on, the Eved, at that point on, from that point on, the Bechor is entitled to Pishnayim that Shevach. In our sugya, we are talking about a case where the Bechor did not immediately upon the death of the father request that Shevach. He only waited till the Shevach was accrued. And being that's the case, he can't then ask for Pishnayim of the Shevach that was already accrued. Okay. Now, we pointed out that Tos's question is making a certain assumption. What assumption is he making? So we pointed out last time that in any time-sharing situation, let's say first, a simple situation of two Pshutim, Reuven and Shimon. Two Pshutim, they inherit a Behema, Tmei, or an Evet. And they decide it's going to work on even days of the month for Reuven, odd days of the month for Shimon. So one could view that situation in one of two ways. One could view that situation as a situation in which throughout the month, throughout the time, they both equally own the Guf HaEvet. Just when they share the work, when they split the work on even days to Reuven, odd days to Shimon, then that's splitting the Sheva. That's splitting the Sheva, but they're both equally bailin in the Guf HaEvet. However, one could understand that when these two Shutfim, Reuven and Shimon, decide that the Evet is going to work on even days for one guy and odd days for the other guy, that is in effect splitting up the Shutfus. That's splitting up the Shutfus, and in fact, we would say that on even days, he belongs to one guy, and odd days he belongs to the other guy. And no longer do they own the Guf of the Eved together. Rather, on some days, the Guf of the Eved belongs to one fellow, and other days, the Guf of the Eved belongs to the other fellow. We pointed out a possible nafkamina with respect to what happens if some golden egg, if some object of Hefker falls into the lap of that Eved on a particular day of the month. Would we say that they would split it? That would be the case if we assume that throughout the month they equally own the Eved, just their arrangement is on splitting the work. Or should we assume that if it's on an odd day of the month, it belongs to this guy fully, and if the egg falls, if this Hefker falls, the lap of the Eved on an even day of the month, it belongs to the other guy, then we would say that whoever day it is, he is fully violent. He's the one that's fully Kona B'Kin and Chutz. Okay. So in any case, Tosfos in his question, and presumably also in his answer, Tosfos and his question is making a particular assumption over here. Tosfos' question is a valid question if and only if we assume that in a time-sharing situation, they are both equally masters, both equally owners of this Eved. And the time sharing is only sharing the work. But the Guf HaEvet is equally owned by both. Then Tosfos' question is a valid question. But if you would assume that when we do time sharing, then on even days it belongs to me, and odd days it belongs to you, then Tosfos' question would not begin. Because after all, if we would assume that time sharing is a form of splitting up, just like there's splitting up by my taking the left part and you're taking the right part, it's also splitting up by my taking even days and you're taking the odd days. Then when you have a father that dies, it leaves an Eved Rehemet man, and the Eved says, I want more of the work, and they decide that the Eved will take 2/3 of the days, and the Pashut will take 1/3 of the days, that is a form of splitting up. So if that's a form of splitting up, then would Tosfos have any question as to why the Eved gets 2/3 of the work and the Pashut 1/3? Obviously, that would be a non-question, because after all, true in our sugya, we're told that Bechor doesn't get 2/3. That's due to the fact our sugya, they didn't split up yet. Everything is still in a communal pot. But if one would say that when we do time sharing, that's a form of splitting up, then hey, obviously, if they've already split up, then obviously the Bechor is meant to get 2/3 of the Shevach and 2/3 of the work, and the Pashut 1/3. Because they've already split up. And the second they made that agreement that the Eved would work for the Bechor 2/3 and for the Pashut 1/3, they split up. So it's not, so certainly, even according to Rabbanan, the Eved is meant to get 2/3 of the work and the Pashut 1/3. Still, the question is making a certain assumption. Now, in connection with this, let's point out that if we keep in mind that there's two ways to view this situation of time sharing, then we'll be able to appreciate a certain pshat that some Rishonim had in that sugya. In Stipler, in the Kilos Yaakov, on the sugya of Good or Good, a section which I sent to WhatsApp to the guys, although I didn't listen to Mar Makomos, I WhatsApped to the guys a couple of days ago. So then Stipler points out the following. We remember that Gemara in Daf Yud Gimel asked a question. The Gemara asked, if Rava asked Rav Nachman, if you don't hold of good or agud, if you hold that nobody could force his way out of the shutfus by telling him, hey, you buy me out or I buy you out, then what will be in the case of a Bechor and Pashut? What will they do when they inherit a behemoth, Tmei, or an Eved? And Rav Nachman gives the answer, well, hey, I'll work for one guy 1 day, for the other guy 2 days. So what exactly was the question over here? Isn't the answer rather obvious? If you don't hold the good or agud, then obviously when they inherit an Eved, behemoth, Tmei, they'll work for one guy 1 day, for the other guy 2 days. So what was the question over here? So we saw that Tosfos on Daf Yud Gimel has a certain approach, which we won't go over now. But there are some Rishonim that explain the question in the following fashion. There's some Rishonim that explain that the question and answer over here are arguing the machlokes between Rav and Rav Nachman. Rava's question is taking one side of this chakira. Rav Nachman's answer is taking another side of the chakira. What do I mean? Rava held that when we do time sharing, then throughout that period of the time sharing, both on my days and your days, the Eved is owned equally by both of us. And the time sharing is only concerning the work, the fruits, the Sheva. But throughout, the Eved is owned equally. And if that's the case, asks Rav to Rav Nachman, hey, what are they going to do when they inherit an Eved and Behemoth Tmei? After all, that option of having the Eved work 2 days for the Bechor and 1 day for the Pashut, that option is not a valid option. Why is it not a valid option? Can anybody tell me why it wouldn't be a valid option to have, if you assume that time sharing doesn't really mean that they're splitting up in any form. It's just a way of sharing the Sheva, sharing the parents. If that's the case, says Rav Nachman, time sharing and having the Eved work twice as much for the Bechor and 1/3 of the time for the Pashut, that option is not an option. Why does Rav feel it's not an option? Why would it not be a valid option? Can anybody tell me why?
Because they own it equally.
And therefore what? And therefore giving the Bechor 2/3 of the work would be a violation of which halacha? Giving the Bechor 2/3 of the work would be a violation of which halacha? The halacha which says, what? That the Bechor, Gezel, why? Because the Bechor is not entitled to, according to Chachamim, is not entitled to Pishnayim that work. Why is he not entitled to Pishnayim the work? Because after all, as long as they're both shutfim in the Gufa Eved, the Gufa Behemoth Tmei, then Rabbanan hold that the Bechor doesn't get Pishnayim of the Shevach. And the work done after the death of the father, that's Shevach. The Bechor is not entitled to Pishnayim of the Shevach. So asks Rabbi to Rav Nachman, hey, the Bukhar is not entitled, not meant to get Bishlam of that work. True, he's a Bukhar, but is not entitled to Bishlam of that work. So if you hold him good or good, then the Bukhar is able to get his fair share. You could buy each other, they could buy each other out. But if you don't hold good or good and they're stuck with that shutfus in the Kufa Eved, then the Bukhar won't be able to get his Bishnayim. Because after all, the Pasha will say, oh, that's Gezel, you got Bishnayim the work. After all, that's Shevach Sheshipun Chasim, Achamisaviyah. To which Rav Nachman responds, no, time sharing is not called that, when we do time sharing, it's not called that we're remaining shutfim in the Gufa Eved. That's called splitting up the Eved. And since it's called splitting up the Eved, in fact, wouldn't be called Gazel. It's called, once we split up the Eved, then of course is entitled to P Shnai. Okay.
Rabbi?
Yeah, that's this type of approach. Those that would be interested would take a look at that section of this type of. Yeah.
And what we're saying right now, all within the re?
I'm sorry?
Is what we're saying right now, all within the re?
I know, the re didn't learn the Gemara's question and answer that way. What we suggested now, we point out, based on this Chakira, we have an explanation of what was different in the question and answer. Which re are you talking about? Maybe we're talking about different re's.
The re on your gimel that asks from the
No, the re had a different approach, and what is the Gemara's question, what's the Gemara's answer? And all the Rishonim are bothered by that the question there seems like a silly question. The answer seems like a simple answer. So what exactly was bothering Rav? Didn't he realize the simple solution of all the Zeyo Mechal Lazesh Leyamim?
It must be that it's Iraq.
Right.
So the Ri had his approach. Some Rishonim, the Ramban, has along these lines this approach that was just suggested. That Rabba's question was how can we give the Bukhar? We can't give him Bishnaim of the work, but that would go against Shitat Chachamim. When Chacham is not entitled to Bishnaim of the work, that work is Shevach Sheshipun Chasim Nachmi Saviyah. Toss didn't interpret the Gemara this way, for whatever reasons might not be obvious. Toss didn't interpret the Gemara this way, but so what we just pointed out, based on this Chakir of ours, we could say that this Gufa is what Rava and Rav Nachman are arguing over. Okay, I don't want to spend more time on this. I want to be able to move on.
It's a question on this. So it's a question on this. So if everybody doesn't want to,
so maybe hold on for that for now. Either WhatsApp me later, or I wanted to discuss, but I will just raise the topic without. Tosas in his question on a distinct point. Tosas made an assumption that just like rent money is called shevach, so similarly, work done by the Eved Behemet Mea, that's called shevach. That assumption is an interesting assumption, which one might question. The Rama over there, I believe, or somebody should over there, question that assumption. What does that depend on whether it should or shouldn't be viewed as Shevach Sheshiv Cholach Misaviyah is something which there's room to discuss. Half a second, please. That's something that there's room to discuss. Okay, but that we'll put aside for now. For now, let us move on, Rabos. So now starting a totally different topic. And that is, now the topic we're starting is learning Chumash Vayikra. Of course, we're doing this by way of an introduction to the short study of Muktashim. I just want to be able to go through a number of points in just Pashup shot in the Gemara with respect to Muktashim. So if I could ask somebody to please put on the screen the psukim in Sefer Yikra. This is from a couple of days ago. Thank you, Rafa. Is the screen, my screen isn't, is your screen showing Psukim Vayikra yet or not yet?
Yes.
Your screen is showing the Psukim Vayikra? Guys,
Yeah.
is your
Yeah.
screen showing Vayikra? Give me a thumbs up if yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Seder. My screen isn't, so I guess I'll get the Psukim. 1 second, please. So you see over there, Rebel Site, two sections. They're in Vayikra, both from Parakeh. It's important for us to go through briefly these sections to be able to understand the Rashbam and the Gemara over here. The first section, the topic of discussion is Asham Mi'ilos. Halacha says that if one gets hana from Kodshim without permission, then one is in violation of the Iser Mi'ila. If one got hana b'shogeg, then one brings the karban mi'ila, asham mi'ilos, and in addition needs to pay kern v'chomesh. Okay. Needs to pay kern v'chomesh. Sorry. The phone nudging. I'm also just gonna shut the window, maybe get better lighting. Okay, I hope that's a little bit better. So if one got hana from Kachim without permission, needs to bring a karban ash. Okay, let's point out that this is not true of all forms of Kachim. It's only regular hekdesh, something that's hekdesh for the Beis Hamikdash, and for kachim, as opposed to kachim kalim. You know, there are different types of karbanos. There's kachim and kachim kalim. Kachim, ola, chatas, asha. Kachim kalim, shlamim. So there's regular hekdesh, something's hekdesh for Bedek Abayis, and also kachim, but not kachim kalim. Kachim kalim, there's no din of me'ila, due to the fact that kachim kalim is not what's called kachim amyuchadim lashem. The pasuk speaks of there being me'ila by kachei Hashem. Chazal say it's only kachim amyuchadim lashem, as opposed to kachim kalim, which also man is able to benefit from. After all, one partakes in the eating of that karban. So kachim kalim is not kachim michadim lashem, and thus there's no din of me'ila. One is not allowed to get hana from an animal of kachim kalim without permission. No, one is not allowed to use it for one's own benefit, but there's no din of me'ila by kachim kalim. It's not kachim michadim lashem. Okay, that is the first section. The second section there, from the end of Vayikra Hey, there talks about, the subject is Asham Gzelos. Asham Gzelos, as you know, is a situation where somebody demands from me money, and I swear I don't owe the money. Whether it be a situation that halacha obligated me to swear in court, or a situation where I just decided on my own to swear, if I swore falsely, and later later admit that I swore falsely, halacha says I need to bring an Asham Gzelos, and I need to pay for what I stole and give a Karen V'chomesh. Okay. Now, let's say somebody steals from me a korban. I had an animal, a cow, a holy cow, a cow that I was makdish as the korban. To bring korban ola, korban chatas, and somebody steals that, and I ask him, "Where's that korban of mine?" And he swears that he didn't steal it, and later admits that he did. So does he need to bring a korban? Is that called that he stole from me? After all, the pasuk says v'chichesh ba'amisa, and his friend and his comrade ba'amisa. So does he need to bring a korban for asham gzelos? Is he in violation of asham gzelos? The halacha says that not. Asham gzelos is only if you steal from your friend, not if you steal a korban. However, Rabbi Yossi Aglili, to some extent, argues with that. Rabbi Yossi Aglili says that kachim kalim is considered to be mamono in a certain sense, and thus, if I have an animal which I dedicated as a shlamim, and somebody stole that, and then I ask him, "Where's my animal?" I suspect that he stole it. I ask him where's the animal. He swears that he didn't steal it, and later he admits that he did. So Rabbi Yossi Aglili says that he needs to bring Nasham Gzelos. Why? Because that is called B'chichesh Ba'amisa. And how does he know that that's called B'chichesh Ba'amisa? Because after all, Darshans, the pasuk says, Nefesh kisechata ma'ala mal b'Hashem v'chichesh ba'amisa. So mentions something about sinning against God. So one might ask, what do you mean sinning against God? The topic of discussion over here is if one stole from his friend. So Rabbi Yosef Rashi over there, Api Pshat, has some explanation, which we won't go into now. But Rabbi Yosef Aglili understands that the pasuk is hinting to a certain situation where one is sinning also against his friend and also against God. What would the situation be where one is stealing also from his friend and also God? Well, it would be in a situation of an animal of kachim kalin, where man is able to benefit from that animal. After all, eventually the person does eat part of that animal. The Bala Karban is able to eat from that kachim kalin. And thus, Rabbi Yosef learns from that pasuk that the din of Hashem Gzelos applies not only when one steals an object of the hedyot, but also if one steals a karban, provided it's a karban of kachim kalin. Okay, now let's point out, Rabbi Yosef does not deny the fact that the normal din of me'ilah is limited to kachim kachim, not kachim kalin. The regular din of me'ilah that was talked about in the first section is only by kachim kachim, not by kachim kalin. After all, kachim kalim, not kachim imichadim lashem. And that's din that there's no milah by kachim kalim is agreed upon by all, unrelated to Rabbi Yossi Aglili. This is one din that we learned in the first parsha about kachim kalim. There's no din of milah by kachim kalim. Another din we learned with respect to kachim kalim is the chiddush Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Rabbi Yossi Aglili is of the opinion that there's no milah. Rabbi Yossi Aglili is of the opinion that the din of shvuas hapikadon of Hasham Gzelos, that din applies not only to objects of the hedyot, also applies to kachim kalim. Rabbi Yossi Aglili is of the opinion that kachim kalim is considered to be mamono. What are the ramifications of it being mamono? Well, first and foremost, it's din of Hasham Gzelos. Also, it's considered to be mamono with respect to being able to be mekadosh an isha. If I'm mekadosh a woman, if I was makdish an animal as a shlamim, and then I tell a woman, I give her the rights to eat that karban, I give her the karban, and she's mikudeshes, according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Chachamim would say that not. Chachamim say that although it's true that you could eat kachim kalim, but nevertheless, it's not called mamona. Rabbi Yosef Glili of the opinion it's called mamona. Parenthetically, let me mention, even though Rabbi Yosef Glili says it's called mamono, and thus one can be mekadosh nisha, one could sell it. There's a din of Hashem Gzelos. Ironically, that's only when the animal is alive. Once the animal was shechted as a karban, then halacha says that although it's only then that you eat the animal, nevertheless, once the animal shechted as a karban, then due to the shechted the karban gives it a higher level of kedusha. Then Rabbi Yossi Aglili will agree it's not called mamono, and although after shechted, after zrikas adam, the bailim, the owner, is allowed to eat the animal, but that is called that he's eating at the table of God. It's not considered to be mamona. And thus even Rabbi Yossi Aglili would agree that once the carbon is shechted, then the bailim cannot use it to be mekadosh nisha. If I'm mekadosh nisha, if I have an animal of shlamim, and I shechted it, or the kohen shechted it, the zrikas adam is done, and now I'm able to eat it. And I tell a woman, right, mekudeshesly, with the meat of that karban, she's not mekudeshes, because after all, it's not mine. It's God. It's God's. Who's letting me eat at his, having me as a guest at his table. Okay. Let me point out. Let me ask a silly question. In the Gemara, it says about 6 lines from bottom. The Gemara quotes the Bryce. First line is Mamo. The Tanya Ma'ala Ma'al Hashem Rabos Kachim Kalim Shem Mamun Bayim. So there it says that the word Ma'ala Ma'al Hashem is Marbe Kachim Kalim. It says Marbe Kachim Kalim. So didn't we say a few minutes ago that there's no Me'ila by Kachim Kalim? And here it says that the word Ma'ala Ma'al Hashem, according to Yosef Glili, is Marbe Kachim Kalim.
This is by Hashem
Let
Gzelos.
me ask the question before. Let me ask the question again. We said that there's no Me'ila by Kachim Kalim. Everybody agrees with that. So how come the Gemara says in this Brisa, Ma'ala Ma'al Bashem, the Rabbos Kachim Kalim, according to Rabbi Yosef Glili, does that pasuk, does that Brisa not indicate that there is Me'ila by Kachim Kalim, according to Rabbi Yosef Glili? Doesn't that Brisa indicate that there is Me'ila? Rabbi Yosef by Kachim Kalim? Does it or does it not?
Does not.
Does not. That which it says, that doesn't mean that there's a Me'ila. That we already said. Rashbam does no Me'ila by Kachim Kalim. Rather, the word Mal, that pasuk, Mal Mal Bashem, that's from that second section. That's talking about Hashem Gzelos. There also, in that section of Hashem Gzelos, start using the word Ma'al. But that doesn't mean Ma'al in the Me'ila B'Kachim sense of the word. There, Ma'al simply means that he changed, that he lied, that he did something, that he is stealing. So the word Me'ila that's used in the second section, the end of Parakeh Vayikra is not referring to Me'ila as then the Me'ila B'Hektesh sense of the word. There it means to lie, to steal. Rabbi Yosef Glili says that the fact that the Torah uses the word Ba'ala Ma'bashem, despite the fact that the parsha is talking about one that steals from his friend, the fact that it says Ba'ala Ma'bashem B'chik Shma hints to us that there's a certain situation where even though there's a certain situation where you're stealing also from God and also from your friend, which you're going to be chayav and Hashem Gzelos on. What is that situation? As we said, Kachim Kal. Okay. So if you keep that in mind, Rabbi Say, I think it will make, if you keep all that in mind, I think it will be easier to read the Rashbam. Let's try to blitz through the Rashbam in the few minutes we have left. Muktashim Lav Didit Ninu. So the Rashbam first points out that this is true. If I understood the beginning of the Rashbam correctly, it's a little bit confusing, but I think the Rashbam points out that when the Gemara says, the Gemara asks, hey, why does it say in the price that the Bechor gets Mishnayim of Mukdashim? After all, Mukdashim don't belong to the father. They belong to hektish. The Rashbam explains this is true of all forms of hektish. Also kachim, and also kachim kalim. He starts off by explaining why it's certainly true of kachim. Mukdashim nabdidinu, kam chatos, vashamos, mechayim, kachim Hashem, ninu. V'yesh be'em me'ilah, kol zman shelo nishchatu, avol shlomin ein be'em me'ilah, kedashin kachim Hashem, kachim yuchadim l'Hashem, yotzu kachim kalim shem yuchadim, kachim kalim shem yuchadim l'Hashem, umiyu, says Rashbam, even kachim kalim, which are not yuchadim l'Hashem, and thus there's no me'ilah, even those are not considered to be mamono. Even those are lav didu. Miu ain't a mamono. The mikdash miyakashi, they're holy. Lo krina bahu, v'chala sha'imatzei lo. It's not called v'chala sha'imatzei lo, but pilu nishchatu, sheyachal achlam, einam b'shalo. Even after shchita, you're able to eat them. They're not yours. It is sound by praise the kedusha mekach b'chalko ben kachem kachem b'kachem kalam einam mekudeshes mishulchan gavah kazach. And the Gemara answers kachem kalim that the brisa that says the buchor gets pishnayim, that's dafka by kachem kalim and mechayim. Meaning, if the animal, if you had a father that owned that was maxed an animal as a shlomim and he dies before shchita, then the buchor will get pishnayim of that. Dabe Mamona, at least according to Rabbi Yosef Aglili. Parenthetically, the Rashbam points out that if the father died after the animal was shechted, the would not get Bishnaim, because after all, Rabbi Yosef Aglili only says that's Mamona Mechaim, not La Chamis. Continues the Rashbam, Damar Mamon Bailamei, L'chol Damar. Avle Kaddish as Yaish, it's considered to be fully Mamon. Mala Mal Bashem, Chichesh Ba'amisa B'Pikadam, Chichesh Ba'Nishbal HaSheker, the Chazar Bahoda, Vevias Hashem, all Rabbis Kachim Kalim, the Mechayv Aleim Hashem Zelos. In Kapabam and Ishma Bahoda, Kishar Gezel Mama, Shemamono. Why? Shabbasim or Shalom. Then the Gava Ela Emurim. The coin gets the Chazar Bashok. Va'miso Kadarsh. And how does Rabbi Yosef know this halacha? Because he darshans the Ba'amiso, after all, the Parsha is speaking up one that steals from his friend. Why is Rashbam? What's Rashbam's point? He wants to say that over here in Rabbi Yosef Aglili's drasha, don't think that the word ma'al refers to the normal concept of me'ila b'kachim. Normal me'ila b'kachim does not exist by kachim kalim. So me'ila. Points out the word me'ila is sometimes used not in the context of me'ila back. Says the Rashbam 2 lines from bottom. Me'ila mamish lakamish lam capricious. The ma'atilu b'toras kohanim d'chsev kachei Hashem min ha'ektetzka me'ila, as opposed to kachim kalam, which is not miuchad l'Hashem. Okay, so to summarize, the Brisa says that Bechor gets Pishnayim of gets Pishnayim in Mukdashim. The Gemara asks, Mukdashim, that doesn't belong to the father. Answers the Gemara, well, according to Rabbi Yosef Aglili, at least by Kachkam it does. The Brisa is talking about where the father died, even Karban Shlam. According to Rabbi Yosef Aglili, Bechor would get Pishnayim. Okay, the Rambam doesn't cite this. Why does he not cite it? Says the Minchas Chinuch, due to the fact that the Rambam apparently would seem from here does not pass like Rosi Aglili. There are steers in the Rambam does or doesn't. Says the Minchas Chinuch, the Rambam over here doesn't quote this halacha, presumably due to the fact that he passes would seem to be passing not like Rabbi Yosef Aglili. Achronim point out that hey, it could be the Rambam does pass like Rabbi Yosef Aglili, but nevertheless doesn't quote this halacha, because after all, one might suggest that which the Gemara says, that the Bechor would get Mishnayim Mukdashim, according to Rabbi Yosef Aglili, that's only if you hold also like Rabbi Yosef Aglili, and also like Rebbe. Because after all, one might say that Rabbi Yosef Aglili is necessary but not sufficient. But let's keep in mind, Kachim Kalin, before they're shechted, although it does belong to me in a certain sense, but I can't benefit from it yet. One can only benefit after it's shechted. Then one is able to eat the animal. So one might have said that in a certain sense, it's not, although it's mine when the animal is alive, but since one can't benefit from it yet, one might have said that only according to Rebbe will the Bukhar get Bishnayim. Because after all, according to Rebbe, we have a more broad definition of what's called matzah. For Rabbanan, he might have said that since one can't benefit from it yet, it's not called matzah. And only if you hold also like Rebbe the Bukhar get Bishnayim. So the Rambam doesn't pass like Rebbe, and therefore he says the Bukhar wouldn't get Bishnayim. Okay. Blina there tomorrow. Moving on to Milva. Have a wonderful day, and sorry for the glitches along the way. Okay, as long as the computer is sick and we stay Bezrat Hashem. From now on, Shiur will be at 6:15 due to the change in the schedule here on this side of the ocean. I hope your mom is not upset with that change. Okay, have a wonderful day, Misaros Tovos.